Hi everyone, it's Josh here from So to Speak. And before we start today's episode, in light of it airing on a day that normally is to celebrate Canada as a country, we felt it appropriate to acknowledge that the land we are meeting on is the traditional territory of many Indigenous nations, including the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishinaabeg, the Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat peoples, and is now home to many diverse First Nations, Inuit, and Métis peoples. We also acknowledge that Toronto is covered by Treaty 13 with the Mississaugas of the Credit. Thank you, and please enjoy.
Hi, welcome to So to Speak. I'm Lyle Groniger, and I'm joined with my co-host Evan Mead and my our new host Josh.
Yeah. Hi, I'm Evan.
Yeah, I got promoted after a year.
You work your way up the ladder.
Perhaps not new host, but Josh is taking the wings for this episode.
So maybe this is like some inner workings and board of directors of So to Speak kind of dialogue. But when is Josh going to get his own show? We gave Cody his own show.
Well, that's up to Josh.
Fair enough.
I'll figure out something someday.
Yeah. Cool. Awesome. But for today, what kind of a topic do you have for us in light of this very atypical Canada Day? And once again, thank you very much for your land acknowledgement there.
Yeah, that was very good. Thank you.
Yeah.
I felt it fitting given it's important to be in solidarity with the many Indigenous peoples across this country, especially in light of the continuing discoveries that will continue to make news. You know, I'm definitely for truth and reconciliation, that movement, but not only accountability for the fact that Canada is like any other country. It has an incredibly dark past that we have to take action to make sure that future generations don't repeat the same mistakes. But because as a podcast, we've normally done things like cover TV or movies or music, in some cases, other more niche topics, I felt it appropriate to do something that is a little bit out of most of our wheelhouses, theme parks.
Ah,
I remember those.
Remember, given the situation with COVID-19 becoming less and less of a threat with each passing week, thank God. Thank God for science, more appropriately. But what kind of theme parks should we talk about today? This is like theme parks local to Canada, or just like where we live?
We're only going to focus on one today.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
We'll focus on one. But it is worth mentioning that the Greater Toronto area was known throughout the 90s and 2000s for several theme parks. There was Ontario Place, Wildwater Kingdom. There is, of course, the annual Canadian National Exhibition, or as we like in Toronto know it as the X, or the C, or the C.
Let's go to the. I had to do that quick aside.
No, yeah, I know. I remember that commercial. One of the cool, the only I should mention that I have been to the X twice. The only thing I don't really like about it is that it's very, very crowded. Even like for a pre-COVID world, like I'm not a guy who likes to be around. Like it's more crowded than the theme park we're going to talk about today, and it only lasts for like 2 or 3 or 4 weeks, right?
Mm.
It's usually from July through to the beginning of July to end of August. Usually.
That's not so bad, honestly.
Yeah, so it only lasts like a third of the summer.
At most, just before Labor Day. I think it's with the Canadian National Exhibition. It always has been you go for the exercise and the crazy foods on offer, and I guess you stay for the rest.
No, you come for the food because of the food building and possibly the air show, which was a big favorite of mine and an annual, labor back to school tradition for me for many years. The rides leave a little to be desired, if I'm being honest. And the other thing that's a pain in the ass is, on top of general admission onto the fairgrounds, you have to pay to get onto every ride.
That's always the biggest turnoff for me, personally.
Yeah. But right across...
What if I told you there was a theme park where if you wanted to, you could pay one flat price for the entire season, and that would cover any future visits for that year?
I feel like that would be wonderful.
That would be wonderful.
You know, it'd be even better if you added canteen or a bottle, if you will, that you could have refilled throughout the entire season without having to pay exorbitant soda fees. We had soda
And you
speak.
could always finish it off with a wonderful piece of funnel cake.
Oh,
that's the cherry on top right there.
Yeah.
Because we had soda speak. Sorry, we had soda speak are very, very adamant about our soda fees.
Yeah.
Indeed, you are. For a lot of kids growing up in the Greater Toronto Area, perhaps some of them were fortunate enough to be able to go to some of the finer theme parks the world has to offer, whether they be of the Disney or Universal or even Six Flags or Busch Gardens variety. Maybe the odd trip to SeaWorld. Maybe some of the smaller theme park places, like, say, places like Knott's Berry Farm. But for a lot of kids in the Greater Toronto Area, particularly Richmond Hill, Vaughan, Woodbridge, Durham region even, places like that, there is only one theme park that encapsulates that childlike sense of whimsy. And for today's episode of So to Speak, it is incredibly fitting that we tackle Canada's Wonderland.
Yay!
Yay!
I've been looking forward to this. Yes.
Yeah. So, where do we begin with Canada's Wonderland? Do you want to start with like the history of the park, or?
Yeah, I think a brief history is the best place to start. It's also fitting we are recording an episode on it this year because as of May 23rd, so about a month ago or so, it's celebrating its 40th anniversary as of this year. And given where it's currently at, it's a miracle it's still around.
Yeah.
In some regards.
It is worth mentioning that there were a lot of rumors over the years about, because Josh, you and I have a buddy who works in like property acquisition and property development, and there has been rumors of the land being sold off to like a greedy condo corporation that it's going to just bulldoze the park and put up condos.
No.
Fortunately, though, that's yet to happen. Like, there's talk of it, but it never really seems to go beyond talk. So, thank goodness for that.
I would hope they wouldn't pave Wonderland to put up a parking lot.
Oh, God. Yeah.
I mean, why would you?
I mean, it is still a pretty swinging hotspot.
Yeah, no, for sure.
Yeah, exactly. Like, so many people go, like millions of people, and it's just like, it's like one of the biggest parks in like all of North America too. So that's astounding.
That is true.
And it's also pretty impressive that it is in what at the time was a relatively sleepy area when Maple was just a village and not a city. Because this has been Wonderland had been in the works since, if you want to go back to at least the early 70s, perhaps even earlier.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Because at the time they were planning a park, Toronto itself had a couple of amusement parks in decades past. There was a Sunnyside Amusement Park, which closed in the 50s to basically pave the way for the Gardiner Expressway. So they paved Sunnyside to put up a highway. Not the same point. There were also some amusement parks that closed in the 20s. Scarborough Beach and Hamlet's Point both had parks at that point. But it wasn't until 1972 when what we know as Wonderland sort of was spearheaded by the Taft Broadcasting Company, as they wanted to put up a 134-hectare, which is about 330 acres wide, a theme park in Maple. And while other possible locations were considered, including Niagara Falls, Cambridge, and Milton, they picked Maple because of how close it was to Toronto and the 400 series highways, which makes sense given, the traffic of Wonderland. A lot of people come in from all parts of the province because of how widespread the highways are.
I mean, you don't get more Canadian than landing your Canadian park in a place called Maple, too, so... But yeah, that's logistically a very good, solid place.
The crazy thing is that Wonderland might not have been the first theme park to be in Toronto. There was, possibly the Conklin family, who their Conklin shows ran a bunch of midways around North America, including at the X. But even Walt Disney had also considered the idea of building a theme park in Toronto before going with Florida, mainly because of, it's Toronto. There's going to be snow and ice in the winter, and it would be way too short of an operating season to be profitable. But would you believe that Ontario Place and the Royal Ontario Museum and even the X themselves opposed the idea of Wonderland because they felt the market wasn't big enough to support any more competition?
Ha!
Hindsight is last year.
Yeah.
It's interesting. I mean, like most other big things that get built, there was a lot of opposition to it. But the fact is that this park was also responsible for changing what became the province's master development plan. As at the time, provincial government wanted to put in a lot more money for residential and commercial development over in Durham. That includes places like Pickering and Oshawa as what we know today as the Greenbelt. So because of that, Wonderland's team were able to convince Ontario to amend that planning policy. So they were actually able to get some infrastructure improvements put in because of that. And then, of course, there's the whole, an American company opening a theme park in Canada would just be a Trojan horse for American culture, as if entertainment wasn't already doing that. That's kind of a weak argument. But that's sort of a brief overview of what led to Wonderland's creation. Construction essentially started in the summer of '79, and by May of 1981, they officially opened it to the public, which, according to the facts here, the opening ceremony included 10,000 helium balloons, 13 parachutists, 350 white doves, and a pipe band. There were 4 children which represented the different regions of Canada that each poured the vial of water from their home regions into the fountain. I'm not sure if it's the same fountain you see walking down the main entrance or the fountain in front before the ticket booths, but they even got Wayne Gretzky to appear.
Nice.
And he helped raise the Canadian flag. It was a big deal because at the time it was like 81, the Edmonton Oilers were like one of Canada's biggest hockey teams because they were, I think, in the midst of winning their 4 straight Stanley Cups. They had 12,000 guests in the park that first day, and at the time it cost $120 million, which would be about $332 million in 2020 dollars, give or take, to build. So
right,
it was a lot for the time, but it was on its way.
Oh, absolutely. No, that's a heck of an opening. I'm impressed.
The weird thing was, especially in the 80s, there were a bunch of different promotions to actually try and help people save some money. I mean, there were Loblaws was involved. They issued Wonder Dollars based on how much customers purchased. Think of it like the 80s equivalent to PC Optimum points. In a sense.
Yeah, I find that funny because I've never really bothered to get a PC Optimum card because if you go grocery shopping on a weekly basis, what's gonna happen is after 2 years you'll accumulate enough points to save a discount for $10 after 2 years of purchase. To me, that's a ripoff. Same thing, and I feel the same way about Canadian Tire money, which is a thing, international audience.
I think it is still a thing, too.
Yeah.
Well, the thing with Wonder Dollars was you could redeem them at the park at par with the Canadian dollar on weekdays, so you could actually get a decent deal considering how low the dollar probably is now.
Right.
But Wonderland's been through a bunch of different ownership eras. Of course, there was the Taft Broadcasting Company in the beginning. King's Entertainment owned it during the 80s and early part of the 90s, which there was a former connection to Hanna-Barbera from both King's Entertainment and, of course, what most of us that were born in the late 80s through to the late 90s, early 2000s probably remember the park as when it was owned by Paramount.
Yes.
Or Viacom CBS as they're known today.
What did Paramount ownership come in the early 2000s? Because I remember watching in the early 2000s, which is when I started really watching commercial time TV. That's when they started calling it Paramount Canada's Wonderland. And then after a while, once Paramount ownership transferred over to Cedar Fair, they dropped the Paramount and just called it Canada's Wonderland.
Well, the Paramount Pictures involvement was actually when Paramount did own, it was, I believe, a joint venture between King's Entertainment Company and Paramount Pictures during the 80s, 90s, but once Paramount Pictures raised their stake from 20% of the park to full ownership back in 1993, they renamed it to Paramount Canada's Wonderland, and after Viacom bought Paramount the next year, they basically brought in a lot of Nickelodeon licensed content as well.
Right.
So if you were a kid in the early to late 90s, it was kind of a gold mine because you had Hanna-Barbera and Nickelodeon stuff in the same park, which was pretty unprecedented. Yeah. And yes, over time, rides did change, especially with the Cedar Fair acquisition in June of 2006. By the following year, already a lot of rides were losing their Paramount licensed names.
Yeah.
For example, Flight Deck, what was known as Top Gun coaster became Flight Deck. Tomb Raider the ride became Time Warp. I think Cliffhanger may have kept its name, but that was, you get the gist of it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But everything also changed in 2010 when Hanna-Barbera Land was no more, and as well as Nickelodeon Central, and they were both replaced by Planet Snoopy, as Cedar Fair has gone along pretty well with the Peanuts brand throughout all the different parks they own, including Knott's Berry Farm. Told you that would come up later.
Right.
It's kind of nice to see Peanuts in the park as well, and through the 2010s, they've really gotten a lot of really solid roller coasters in, especially with some of the more prominent ones we'll get to in a little bit. Wonderland really helped reinvent the game when it comes to roller coasters in North America, and Cedar Fair definitely deserves a lot of the credit for really taking that side of the park seriously. Of course, it's not just the roller coasters that get people into the park. I believe sometime in the 80s or 90s, they added Splashworks, which is the main water park side of Wonderland, with a major expansion in 1996. Granted, obviously in a post-pandemic world, that part of the park is not going to get as much use as I'm sure some would like, but there were a lot of fond memories of like the lazy river or whirlwinds, places like that.
Yeah. Well, give it like until next summer when like, you know, there is no like official pandemic declaration and enough people like are vaccinated and herd immunity's been reached, and I feel like Splashworks will live to see another day. But I feel like that's a really cool history recap. One of the things I would like to talk about today is just, you know, because we all have a personal touch with this place. Do we each want to talk about our first experiences there?
We could, for sure.
Yeah, I can remember them.
Because I think I remember, I vaguely remember when I first went.
I don't remember when I first went, but I remember a field trip that I took.
Oh, wow.
So I can recount that.
That's cool. My first trip to Wonderland was in the early summer of 1999. I remember standing in line for an hour and a half to go on because, well, I was 7 at the time, so I was too short to go on most of the rides at the park. So my mom and a girlfriend of hers and her son and my brother and we all went for a day. Most of it was spent, you know, being very thirsty and waiting in lines. Like I said, we waited an hour and a half in line for that helicopter like car ride that goes across a rail network, like across like half of the kids section.
Oh yeah,
it was fun at the time. I thought it was cool, but that's all I really remember. And then, despite the fact that year after year, when we were all going through puberty, my friends would go to Wonderland and they talk about how awesome the rides are, and I just didn't go. No. I guess the friends that I had over the years never really expressed an interest in going. I mean, like if any, and for quite honestly, neither did I, because I guess I was a little scared of roller coasters. But then when I heard throughout my teenage years, you know, making friends outside of, you know, the little circle of friends that I had was a little challenging, and no one really expressed any interest in going to Wonderland. So I thought to myself, okay, this sucks. But the next time I did go to Wonderland was actually as an employee, because I did work there for the Halloween season, which we will get to later. I'll come back and talk about that, but Lyle actually invited me out there in the fall of 2016 for a day where there were no lines and you could go on virtually any ride that you wanted. So I went and got about 15 years worth of missed roller coaster experience under my belt in a single day, and I did want to throw up a couple of times.
Yeah, it's like a backlot.
Yes. Oh, that's a great story. So, one of the cool, I didn't know Lyle and I went on like okay, so when you get into Wonderland, the park is divided into certain zones. Not that I really pay attention to that, but each zone has its own theme of ride. Like on the southern end of the park, you have flight deck, time warp, the swing of the century, sledgehammer, and then you have Behemoth, and then you have the arcades. You have one arcade zone where you can go win a bunch of giant stuffed animals, and backlot stunt coasters. They are formed that you want to talk about a ride that lost its movie name. It used to be called what? Okay, it was introduced in the summer of
the Italian Job Stunt Coaster. If I
yeah,
recall correctly.
because Paramount greenlit a shitty remake of the Italian Job. And Lyle's going to have something to say about that movie at a later date.
Yeah, hold on to your butts.
Yeah. But so I saw the commercial. I remember seeing the commercials the year the Italian Job remake came out. And I remember that Paramount, Canada's Wonderland at the time, was promoting that ride like crazy. And the ride didn't look that fast. I thought it was going to be like, a kind of like a cool moderate ride where like, because it didn't look very fast in the commercial. So after getting my fill of Behemoth and Leviathan, which we'll get a lovely introduction later, I went on the Italian Job, the Backlot Stunt Coaster. And the story goes like this. After going on a couple of coasters, I thought, okay, it'll be a nice, relaxing ride. And then, so we are just, I'm like, okay, this will be a nice, relaxing ride. We're all strapped in, and then, 2 seconds before the ride starts, Lyle looks at me and says,
Evan, this ride goes very fast.
What?
Master of comedic timing.
Yeah.
Uh-huh. Alright, is there any other memories you want to share?
There was another, well, I do remember, so the first time so to give some background, in the summer of 2008, they introduced a super coaster called Behemoth. I wouldn't go on Behemoth until, like, about 8 years later, unfortunately, but I did hear it was when my classmates at high school would go to Wonderland on the weekends, they would come back and say, one guy said Behemoth was boring. A lot of them said it was really cool. Now, what we mean by a super coaster is that these coasters go hundreds of feet in the air. We're talking like 250 to 350 feet in the air, and then they drop. They nosedive you, and then the coaster begins from there. It's a really fun experience. You go really fast and really high all at the same time. And it's the closest thing that I can think of that replicates being in the cockpit of a fighter jet. So it's really cool. I went on Leviathan first. Leviathan was a super coaster designed by the same European designer that designed Behemoth. Leviathan, fortunately, gets Canada's Wonderland a lot of good press because it's one of the most popular rides at the park to this day by far.
Still is.
The rides are crazy. The lines...
the rides are crazy.
The rides are crazy.
The lines are crazy.
Before you even get to the park is crazy.
The lineups for Leviathan are crazy, like year after year. If you're going to go on Leviathan on a busy summer day, you are waiting at least an hour to get on that coaster.
Unless you have Fast Pass.
Oh, right, yeah.
Fast Pass Plus.
Fast Pass, yeah.
Yeah.
Those kids. Privileged. But anyways, so... you get on Leviathan, and yeah, Fast Pass, Fast Pass to me is like, they'll let you get on the coaster early, but in addition to that, it's almost like you're upgraded to first class of the coaster because I think some Fast Pass you just get, like, seat priority. Like, it's almost like the class structure on an airliner, where it's like there's first class, there's business class, and then there's economy and coach and all that jazz.
Yeah.
But yeah, so the point is, once again, I was exposed to Leviathan on a day where I didn't have to wait like a crazy long time to get in line. So it was a fall day where there were no lines. So we were gone the ride in like 5 minutes, literally. So I thought to myself, okay, I'm gonna go on Leviathan for the first time ever, and then I at this point, like, I had no roller coaster experience under my belt, so I didn't understand like how my fear of heights would factor into that until I got on the ride. So I strapped in, and then the coaster's chugging along, and then I see the giant initial accelerate. What's it called? Like the initial ramp and then the drop.
The hill.
Yeah, no, the first hill of Leviathan goes about 200, 300. It broke a record. It goes like 350, 400 feet in the air, and as we're climbing the hill, it rears us back, and I'm just sitting there like, what was I thinking? Oh boy. So I regretted it as soon as like we're climbing this thing, and then when I realized how high up in the air I was like Donkey from Shrek. Remember when they're crossing the bridge to the Fiona's castle? Where
I'm looking down.
Yeah, no, Shrek, I'm looking down. Ah!
No, you paused it at the beginning. Yep, that's me. You're probably wondering how I got into this situation.
Yeah. So then I was basically talking to myself like, don't look down, and then Lyle over here was like, hey, I can see my house from here. Shut the fuck up, Lyle! Don't look down, don't look down. And then we get to the big drop, and then this guy here quoted Toy Story to calm my fears.
Yeah, every time I'm with Evan on a roller coaster, I know he gets a little intimidated, so just by the time we reach the precipice of the hill, I always scream out, to infinity and beyond! As we're going down the hill.
Yeah.
I remember that's not even the worst thing I said. Like, I remember we were on the Mind Buster, and I kept talking to you about stocks and basketballs.
Oh, yeah.
You know, things that always go up.
Were they GameStop stocks?
No, like,
things that always go up and down, up and down.
I wasn't even mad. I wasn't even that mad because I was jokingly mad because I'm like, Lyle, do you really want to talk about stock prices and economic depression while we are on a roller coaster? Because when the stock falls,
Wasn't there a roller coaster in The Simpsons that made fun of that idea?
Yeah, it was named after Enron.
Oh yeah, that was an episode.
Yeah.
Speaking of the Mighty Canadian Mindbuster, that is one of the few original remaining rides from the park's opening, and one of the remaining wooden coasters, at least in the country, if not the continent.
Yeah.
It's been around.
I gotta be honest, I have a soft spot for the wooden coasters. I will say though, they are extremely jolty, and
they hurt your bum.
They do. And so maybe so basically the Mindbusters is cool. I have a soft spot for Wild Beast. Did Wild Beast come later, or because I know that's
me check.
I think Wild Beast.
I know it was spelled Wild Beast like WILDBEAST until I think a few years ago. Then they reverted it back to how it was spelled originally with WILDE.
Well, what's the point of that?
Yeah, the original rides.
It's to pay homage to how it was originally spelled in the 80s.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, the original roller coasters that debuted in 1981 were Thunder Run. That's the roller coaster that goes through the mountain.
Yes.
The Mindbuster. Dragonfire, which is this cute little steel roller coaster that's just beside Leviathan, just to show how far we've come as a society. And Wild Beast, which we brought up, as well as Ghoster Coaster.
The OG, which still has... It was formerly known as Scooby's Gasping Ghoster Coaster during the Taft Kings Paramount era, but it's still one of the OG kids coasters that all kids aspire to go on at some point.
Yeah, I got a story about that one, but I'll wait my turn.
Yeah, so essentially, anyways, there's a certain time of day where I actually really like going on Wild Beast, and that is, whenever the sun is setting, because the coaster's initial hit, the first hill of the coaster faces to the east, where you can actually see the sun set, and for a brief moment right before the nose drop, you can actually get if it's a clear day, you can actually get a really nice view of the sunset before the coaster sends you drop into oblivion. Other than that, I also really like Flight Deck, despite the fact that I know it kind of hurts Lyle's shoulders a little bit. I've never
not as bad as Time Warp.
Oh yeah, no. Even I'm not the biggest fan of Time Warp, not because it hurts me, but just because it's not that really cool of a ride, and it's not as fun. It's kind of boring, actually, if you want my opinion.
No, flight deck, I think as long as you keep your head as securely placed as you can, you won't get whiplash. Although I did almost lose my glasses at one time.
Oh, that sucks.
So I just...
that would have sucked.
Yeah.
The crazy thing about Flight Deck is that it was the country's first inverted roller coaster, and the fact it took almost a decade after the first Top Gun for it to even be a roller coaster, it's kind of ironic they waited that long. They could have done it like in the late 80s and it would have been perfect timing.
Yeah.
It would have been great. It would have been a great marketing tool, too, because there's even a line in Top Gun about being inverted.
Yeah, no, it's a shame. Flight Deck is not that popular. Like, they have this massive queue line built just around it throughout this, like, kind of makeshift hangar area.
Yeah,
it's hardly ever full.
It's very Air Force themed, which I really like.
Yeah, but it's not that long of a wait time.
Yeah.
But,
well, who knows? Maybe with Maverick coming out this year, finally, maybe, hopefully,
that's
that'll
true.
reinvigorate some people's interest in the ride.
God, I can't wait to see that movie.
I only hope, yeah. You've been dying to see that, Evan.
Yeah. But anyways, so that's kind of all the stories I have for now.
Yeah, I want to hear about that field trip, Lyle.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, sure. So, I don't really remember my very first time on the... at Canada's Wonderland. It must have been when I was rather young. But I remember the night I ended one of my first times there, the last ride I went on at nighttime was Ghoster Coaster. And it was so spooky, and I was such a huge Scooby-Doo fan that I was like, oh, I gotta get back on this ride the next time I'm here. Years later, when I'm a little bit older, a little bit wiser, in grade 6, my school took us to... Canada's Wonderland. We were doing this choir thing, or this group class thing. Back in it was in that auditorium area that's somewhere in the middle of the park.
International Show Place.
Yeah, that place. We were scheduled to like do a small performance there. But in the meantime, hey, we got to waste time and like have fun at the park. And me and my group, I was sort of like the de facto leader. It's like, guys, by the end of today, I want to go to Ghoster Coaster, which is perfect because it's right in the back of the park, so it's a long trek. And of course, we had to make pit stops along the way to make sure everyone had their fill of rides.
Right.
But in the meantime, I was like, no, guys, we gotta get to Ghoster Coaster. It's a quest. And I saw other new rides I hadn't seen since I was like younger, like The Fly, which looks so cool. And I was like, oh, I want to go on that. The line's too long. We must keep going.
Well, that's probably the best family ride in the whole park, where like, you know, it's where the parents can take the kids that are too short to ride Leviathan. Unfortunately, The Fly is not a coaster that is suited for large groups. It can only take
like the movie of the same name. It's not suited for kids.
Yeah. No. The point is, it's a family oriented ride, but unfortunately, they can only take like 4 people at a time.
Yeah. And the lines are super long because of that.
Yeah.
Anyway, so after a long trek, we finally got to the end of the field trip, and I was just about to get on the Ghoster Coaster. Sun was going down. It's like, perfect. It's going to be just like how I remembered it when I was younger. So all my friends and I got on the Ghoster Coaster, and afterwards I was like, that was a lot less exciting than I remembered. So it was a bit of a lame experience, but at the same time, it was at least a decent way to like explore the park and get to the end. But I remember like when in the beginning of the day, I was next to this one kid who I really didn't like, and the dad didn't really like me either, and I was just like, so where are you going, Lyle? It's like, oh, I want to go to the Ghoster Coaster. Ghoster Coaster? Why don't you go on a manly ride, like, I don't know, Behemoth? And I was like, oh, I guess, would this have been around the time Behemoth was around? No.
Behemoth didn't come till 2008.
Okay, yeah, so that was a few years in the future. I don't know, some bigger ride, I guess. I don't know. But, yeah, that was grade 6. I did not go to the park again until 2015. And that had a wonderful start to the day, because, like, it was me, my dad, and my dad's now ex-girlfriend, and her kids. And the best way to start the day is I woke up with a horrible cramp.
Oh.
Isn't that just a great... that's a biological alarm clock right there, just being like, dreams. Jeez. I need to eat more bananas. Okay, I get it, body. I need more bananas. Anyways, so... Me and my family, we went to Canada's Wonderland, and I was super excited because I hadn't gone in so long. And it felt, of all the days I've ever spent in Canada's Wonderland, this one was my favorite because the weather was nice. I got to spend a lot of time with my dad. We got on pretty much as many rides as we could. We did pretty well. It was there was even one time we were on the line for the Bat, and Weezer's Back to the Shack started playing on the Fun TV station. I was just like, oh, nice. What a nice cherry to put on this day. And and I ended the day by going on the Leviathan for the first time.
Oh yeah.
So kind of like Evan's story. So it was a long line, always is. Had to get. I think we were there for like an hour, and then we got on the ride, and it's like I am not backing down now. I've waited too long.
Yeah.
And but I was pale as a sheet as soon as we got in the cars and it started rolling around and getting onto that hill. I'm just like keeping my breath steady. I'm looking around at this height, and I'm just like, oh no. And
no.
To top it off, my dad's ex was like, "Hey, Lyle, you all right over there?" And I'm like, I was this close to blacking out by the time we got to the top. When as it always does. But then as soon as that hill's over, I'd say Leviathan's not nearly as bad. You're just going very fast. You're soaring over these rails.
Yeah.
You're going at a pretty intense speed. It's a lot of fun after that initial intimidating drop, and I think that's what gets people hooked. Is that feeling. Yeah. So yeah, then I conquered my fear of Leviathan. I was like, yeah, that's a really great. That's definitely one of the best coasters this place has.
Yeah.
And then ever since 2015, Evan and I, we've gotten yearly passes, and we've always gone and gone and gone.
Yeah.
And I've had some good moments. I met one of my I actually met one of my girlfriends at
Yeah, you did.
Yeah, I met Marie the first time at Canada's Wonderland. When my dad took me, and I was just like, oh, because my friends were there. And isn't it great when you go to Canada's Wonderland, you just bump into a group of friends and be like, hey.
Yeah.
And then my dad was like, oh, I'm too tired of roller coasters. You go on ahead.
I think he knew because, like, your friends were there. He saw your friends and he didn't want to keep you, so it's like, yeah, your dad's a trooper.
Yeah, he is. Bless his heart.
Yeah.
Literally, because I feel like roller coasters ain't good for him.
Yeah.
But I gotta admit, man, the more times we go to Wonderland, the less special it feels. Like, it has. I've never had the same feeling I had back in 2015, because we just go year by year by year, and it gets to the point where it's not really as special anymore.
To be honest, I'm not going to name names, but a couple times we did go with that one friend who kind of tainted the experience.
Not all the time, but sometimes he'd be a pain. Like, he would say, oh, my harness was broken.
Yeah,
I didn't buckle up. My thing almost came off. And I'm like, why are you saying this?
Yeah, well, he also tried to, sue his workplace by claiming that he had a rolled ankle while he was on the job, and he didn't have a rolled ankle at all.
Yeah,
so, yeah.
It was all kinds of sketch. But yeah, I definitely needed a break from Canada's Wonderland, and sure enough, unfortunately the pandemic happened, and yeah, I mean, I'm still on the fence as to whether I want to go this year, because I feel like the lines are just gonna be even worse. You gotta like disinfect everything like twice as soon as I get on, as soon as I get off. So yeah, I don't know. I miss it, but I am not like jumping at the gun to like get onto these rides. But those are some of my stories of Canada's Wonderland. You're more than welcome to share. It's your turn now, Josh. You've been waiting very patiently. So let's hear what you got.
Oh my god, where to start? I've probably been to Wonderland certainly more than both of you over the years, just because a combination of proximity and interest, but also in 2013 and half of 2014, I also worked there as an usher, so I got to work in a lot of the different theaters around the park, and it was certainly a good experience the first time, although not being a huge fan of standing around in the hot sun or the pouring rain, or when it was really cold in the spring, because you would work from like April to August usually. So it was a lot. But as a kid, it was really fun. This was during the Paramount era, so there was a lot of walking through Hanna-Barbera Land, going on some of the other rides there, or like in Kidsville. Taxi Jam, I have very fond memories of. When it used to be called Scooby Doo's Haunted Mansion, now known as Boo Blasters on Boo Hill. That was fun. It was sort of like, because I had been to Disney World a few times. By that point, it was basically that park's version of Buzz Lightyear's Space Ranger Spin or Astro Blasters, where you just shoot ghosts to earn points. I've never been much of a roller coaster person past the age of like 12 or 13. I guess just because I grew out of it, I'm not a big thrill seeker. But I remember when Zoom Zone opened, which would have been around 2001 or 2, there was a friend I had gone with. I'm not really friends with him at this time, but we went on all the new rides there. And Silver Streak, even into like my preteen years, was a pretty fun coaster. But there was a specific memory I have of, it might have been 98 or 99, when I went with my family and we went to Splashworks. And I think that might have been the year that the Black Hole had just opened up, which was, in my opinion, one of the funner water slides there. It still is. But the first time I was going through it, there were these little holes of where, like, in the slide for ventilation where the sunlight peeks through. And I was looking out and I saw this like almost silver background, and I was thinking, oh, so that's what the sets they film music videos behind looked like. Because at that time, a lot of the music videos, it looked like they were very flashy, silvery, almost like, you know, it was being filmed in like with a back, like an aluminum foil green screen kind of thing.
Yeah,
and then, you know, the Lazy River and Whirlwinds were always fun. And I think either that time, I think it might have been that time, I heard Sometimes by Britney Spears either over the park PA or in the car radio on the way home. So I always kind of associate that track with that time. Later in life, as a lot of my friends were getting more into roller coasters and I was not, I went to Wonderland more to just like walk around and have fun. I know I did go on Vortex, I think, in 2013. And it was just like, that was a lot. I survived, obviously, but I've always been more for rides like The Fly, even if that's a little bit tense. I've always loved Clockworks because it just it's fun. It's a speed I can handle, and it's just like it just goes up and down, and it's near Thunder Run, which I have been on as well. But just that whole mountain area in general is really enjoyable. A really neat stage show memory I have is in 2010 they did a rock band themed stage show called Rock Band Live, and I actually, this same friend and I auditioned to be in that show, where basically they picked like 3 people, one to play guitar, one to play bass, and one to play drums. The whole gimmick was that like it was a stage show where people would sing songs that were in the Rock Band series, and then near the end, the 3 people would come out on this like moving riser and play that same song. We'd have a little TV monitor to where you could actually see the charts, and I think the audition song that we played was Welcome Home by Coheed and Cambria. Mm-hmm. And it was really neat because I'd been playing Rock Band for a couple of years at that point, and to be able, I think I got like 98%, but obviously to anyone that plays rhythm games, when you play on a TV that's not your own, the lag is going to be very noticeable. There was a lot more delay, but it was fun because I got picked to be on the show on drums, so I got to, you know, basically play Rock Band in front of people.
Oh, that's awesome.
Cool.
It was. I think I still have the lanyard that I got from it, but it was sort of my first introduction to like seeing what a behind the scenes, you know, working environment was. And then obviously when I was in between semesters at college, I worked there as an usher, and I got to work in all the popular theaters like Wonderland Theater, which was a big deal when you did get to work there because it's air conditioned, and especially in the dead of summer, that's a welcome bonus. Plus the chairs were comfortable, and the shows themselves actually over the years, whether they were I guess, was it Rock and Roll Monster Review or something? It might have been something like that. There was a few other ones. Maybe I'm getting that in Universal Studios mixed up, but those were fun. International Showplace, I think, much like Lyle, I had a similar experience where I went one time with my school choir or a band, probably for School Music Fest, which, as an usher, those are the shifts where, like, oh, I have to be at the park for 7:30 on a weekday? Great. But it was early enough. It was quiet. That was a pretty funny thing where during the downtime there was a piano there, and I decided to just noodle around on it, and then I played the main riff to The Number of the Beast by Iron Maiden.
Oh, nice.
That was some fun times. Much like Evan, I remember a lot of talk around our school of Behemoth when it first came out, because that was like the roller coaster for all the teenagers to go on, because it was a huge deal. Yeah. I remember in 2014, when Wonder Mountain's Guardian was just about to open, I was on shift at Showplace just as one of the test cars was going up because I had seen a lot more presence around Wonder Mountain because, the neat thing about Wonderland is it has really started to embrace the theme park YouTuber community, especially with COVID-19 this past year. They've been putting up a lot of ride POV videos on their YouTube channel and really giving people a sort of theme park experience when they can't have one. But that particular day, there were a lot of people taking out their cell phones and videoing the test cars that was going up because that basically meant they were making sure that the ride worked properly before they launched it. And that was a big deal because Wonder Mountain's Guardian, which is one of the newer coasters, it's essentially a 4D roller coaster, which is pretty unheard of in most parks in North America.
Wait, a 4D roller coaster? Because...
Yeah, it's a 4D interactive dark ride coaster and with one of the largest drop tracks in the world. And I obviously haven't been on it because I haven't really been back to the park since I last worked there, but I also thought it was really cool because this is the first time most people were probably seeing it, and to be part of it in some way, it sort of shaped how I approach what I do in my spare time. Just wanting to help other people find out some neat things. What else have I got?
Hey,
for Wonderland?
Quick question: did either of you have we talked about that rail shooter coaster that goes through the mountain? Because there's two coasters on the mountain.
That's the Guardian.
The Guardian.
That's the one we're talking about.
Wonder Mountain's Guardian does go through the mountain, but Vortex also goes near Wonder Mountain, and the most recent coaster, 2019's Yukon Striker, also shares that space as well.
Oh, I completely forgot. How did I forget to mention Vortex? I have so much fun with Vortex.
That's a nice one, yeah.
What I didn't know until I watched one of those coaster YouTuber movies is that when you Vortex takes you up to the top of the mountain, and apparently many years ago there was an observation deck at the top of the mountain, and it's no longer there, but the Vortex roller coaster goes through what was the observation deck, and then it drops you. Yeah.
The thing is, my sister did work as a stage tech in the 2010s at Wonderland, and in Wonder Mountain, she was able to go in. There are old theme park, old parts of coasters and old character heads and stuff that are in there for storage.
Yeah.
So it's kind of neat to see, it's not completely gone.
Oh, that's nice.
What else have I got? There was something else. Oh yeah, the 3D action theater. Remember that?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah. Is that where they had is that where because when Nickelodeon had some stake in the park?
SpongeBob 3D. That was always a gem of a highlight every time.
SpongeBob 3D, baby.
Yeah. Now I remember. Okay, before 3D was the main movie going experience at Cineplex or AMC. If you wanted to see a 3D...
AMC, if that's even around anymore.
It's not, unfortunately. But what back in the day when it was. So, so before filmmakers started marketing 3D films to audiences, if you wanted to see a 3D film, you had to go to a theme park. And I do remember in the mid-90s, there was Terminator 2 3D Battle Across Time, which was basically excerpts of Terminator 2... but turned into 3D, and it would literally be where Arnold would get into the theater. I don't know how well it's aged because I never saw that for myself, or I never experienced that for myself. But I don't know. Apparently, it was all right. But this was again. What was SpongeBob 3D like? Because I didn't see it.
I think it was sort of was it a reenactment of the Help Wanted episode where SpongeBob had to. Let me see. I'm trying to look it up because it's been years since it was there.
See, I thought it was a
SpongeBob
Plankton...
SquarePants 4D.
Yeah, 4D. So the chairs move. You get sprayed with water. It's it's a whole experience.
Shrek did something similar.
Yeah.
Yeah, Shrek 3D when it was only on DVD until it was on Netflix without the glasses.
Oh,
yeah, it was kind of insane because I remember it was just basically the fact that the pirate painty would come out of the picture and throw you into Bikini Bottom, at the time that was a big deal because, he actually made the opening gimmick kind of a character in itself.
So Patchy the pirate comes out and...
The painting, are you ready, kids?
Yeah, no, that's...
He grabs you and flings it. That scared the shit out of me when I was young.
SpongeBob's making a Krabby Patty, a pickle rolls out of the place, and then you have to find the pickle.
Wow. How intense.
Among other things. There's, I think, a showdown with plankton as well. It's a miniaturized and shortened version of an episode, but I think for 4D at that time, you know, it was like there was that, and there was It's Tough to Be a Bug at Disney World and Animal Kingdom, or I guess Disneyland, but similar idea. Kind of neat though, the sensory things.
Yeah.
I remember I saw.
There was also Supernatural too in the '90s. I kind of remember that one.
Mm-hmm. I remember when I was in.
I think there was a James Bond Jurassic Park one too. I might be wrong. Something with dinosaurs.
Yeah, there were. I remember when I was in. This one's a little unrelated, but like in Universal Studios, they had a 4D ride where you flew through Hanna-Barbera land and you encountered like Scooby-Doo and the Jetsons and the Flintstones and the other ones. And you even got to meet like the actual like developers of these characters. Like I think it was actually Hanna-Barbera. I'm not sure. But yeah, there's these two elderly guys who were like, "Oh wow, we gotta get Scooby-Doo on the line." Yeah, that was.
Gonna look that up.
That was my That's my favorite 4D experience. SpongeBob 4D is definitely my second though.
Yeah.
Although with when I was a kid in the action theater, I was not a fan of the moving seats. So I think my family and I would usually just like go to the very front and sit on the bench and just be like, I know watching a movie, it takes out all the immersion, but like there are some things that I guess younger kids are just not necessarily equipped to handle. I also remember, I think it was near what was called Flavor-Rator. There was a kids' playground that was sponsored by a bunch of candy bars.
Oh, okay.
I don't recall
If you remember that, it was in Kidsville. I remember that.
I know there still is like a playground area. Is that where it was situated?
I think it's the same one. It's just named differently. There's been a lot of, even like walking through the park at some of the rides I'd see over the years. Like I used to be, before Clockworks, there was Bayern's Curve. There was the Fury, the Great Whale of China. There was even walking near Splashworks and seeing like Skyrider and Jetstream.
Yeah. Speaking of have we talked about Splashworks? Because I've only been there once. We went on a super, super hot day. Where like it was and it actually felt quite refreshing. There's only a couple of water slides there that I honestly think are very fun, but there's not much to really say about Splashworks other than it's fun.
I mean, I don't like Splashworks personally. That's just because I burn very easily in the sun, and walking around in a swimsuit does not appeal to me. But there are some that are actually pretty fun. I like the one it's like you go into like a giant basin and then you get sucked into the hole like a whirlpool.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I think that's Rip Barracuda Blast.
Maybe
Barracuda Blaster is the bowl one.
Yeah.
The crazy thing about Splashworks is it only opened in '92 and it's been expanded it's been expanded like it says 5 times here. In '92 when it had Body Blast, Whirlwinds, Pipeline, and Drop Zone, later renamed to Wipeout. And then '96 was when it expanded to 20 acres, and that's when they added the Whitewater Bay, which is still the largest outdoor wave pool in this country, which is pretty ridiculous.
Oh, that was. I do have one memory of that. For some bizarre reason, on the hot day that Lyle and our friends went, they closed the wave pool. And then, like, I remember as soon as I said, okay, wave pool's open, we all just ran in. And it was like D-Day, just storming that pool. Like,
yeah, everyone was just waiting in anticipation to get in that pool again. Yeah. I remember that.
And it was quite refreshing. But yeah, no, it is for as far as wave pools go, it's a lot of fun.
I like in '99. That was a great year to be in Splashworks. That was when they added Super Soaker and the Plunge, and I remember going on both of those rides with my family that year. The Plunge is you get in the raft and you go straight down, and the Super Soaker is where it twists around. Riptide Racer, when that opened in 2002, I felt like that was kind of a nod to a similar ride at Blizzard Beach, where you'd basically get on these sort of sleds and go down hills.
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But I was honestly surprised back in 2015 when they actually expanded it again, because they hadn't done anything in over a decade at that point. I figured, well, they were going to sort of leave the water park by itself. There was a Typhoon and Splash Station. And ironically, Typhoon was brought over from Ontario Place. So even when Ontario Place sort of phased out its water stuff, they've still managed to at least find homes in other places.
Mm-hmm. That's nice.
I'm kind of bummed they got rid of Body Blast a couple years ago, and a few other ones, Pipeline in 2001 and Wipeout in 2004. But most recent thing for Splashworks was when they added Muskoka Plunge in 2016, and they also rebranded Splash Island to Lakeside Lagoon. But if you're in the park on a particularly hot day when it's open, you can't really go wrong. There's a lot of different water slides for everyone, and even if you want to just chill in the lazy river, that's refreshing enough. Or if you don't necessarily want to get fully wet, but you still want to have your clothes on, you could go to Whitewater Canyon or Timberwolf
I was
Falls.
gonna ask if we'd spoken about that.
Those two are pretty good.
That is that's a lot of fun. I do remember I remember basically you can have really bad luck on that ride. How wet you'll get kind of depends on your luck, quite honestly, because the way the ride works is there's a waterfall on one side of the river, and then if the rapids slam your side of the raft, you're in a circular raft. Everyone sits in a circle, and if your side of the circle smashes up against the waterfall, you're getting wet.
Well, yeah, I always loved the way I like the dock area because it's this rotating, spinning circle. I'm like, that's really cool. I thought it was a new ride, but it's been around for quite a long time.
The dock, it almost feels like there's a tiny time limit to get on the ride. So you really can't dick around. If you're going, you're going.
I mean, you get enough time to get on there, but yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
It just sucks that you have to put your bags on the little buoy that you're on. So they'll get wet too. But what can you do?
Yeah. That's one of the few. That's one of the few rides at Wonderland where they will actually allow your bags to come on the ride.
Yeah, that and Vortex.
Vortex and Vortex and that are the only rides that I can think of where. Let's talk about rides that we don't have great experiences with, or rides that kind of made us feel nauseous. Because there was that Shockwave ride that. Twirls you all over the place. I find that on coasters I don't get sick, but if rides invert me and twist and turn me, that's when I get a little queasy. So Shockwave gives credit for that. What's that what's that ride where it's like a Ferris wheel, a Cyclone, yeah, where you basically it turns you.
I like that one.
It puts you. It's
like the Rage, except you're spinning at the same time as you're going in a pendulum.
Yeah, exactly. Also, what was that?
The Rage itself can be a little intimidating. Yeah. If you think the Rage is this, then you have the Cyclone, which is this, and then you had Jet Scream, which it closed in I think 2010. But essentially, think the Rage, but that.
And then you have the Lumberjack now, which does a similar thing.
Because I was gonna say Lumberjack and Swinging Timbers. I think it's Swinging Timbers. Are they both in the same area? Soaring Timbers. Yes.
Yeah, they're right next to each other. They're close to Vortex.
I figured they'd be in that area. Again, as I'm not a roller coaster person, I'm kind of glad that I don't have anything to share in this section.
I guess I do. I personally really don't like. Well, I don't mind Flight Deck. I'll go on it once in a while. It does hurt sometimes, but every time I go in Time Warp, I just get hurt. I think it's the restraints when you're leaning in. I don't know if it's because of my height or something. When I was a kid, I never got hurt on it, but now I think because I'm so tall and broad that every time it twists and does an inversion, my head gets boxed in, and I hit the side of my head against the fiberglass, and
the way those restraints are set up, it's like there's the bars in front of your face too, is it not?
Yeah, I mean, you hold on to the bars that are kind of close to your shoulders, so that's just not fun. I don't like that, and other rides I don't really care for.
What's that? The Snowbirds ride where you're in your own little plane car.
Oh and the one that spins and you can control it.
Quote spins.
Yeah, it never works for me. I think it's because I'm afraid to lose my glasses, so I just don't try my ass off to
plane cars.
No, it's what's it called? It's let
me look this up. I know the one you mean.
Sky Zone.
Is it Sky Zone or Sky Rider?
I think it's either Sky Zone or
Skyhawk. I think it's Skyhawk.
Skyhawk.
Skyhawk. That's the ride we're talking about.
Yes.
So Skyhawk.
Not to be confused with Warhawk.
Yeah. So Skyhawk. What happened was I actually went on Skyhawk because I like plane themed rides, and I was kind of the thing is, it either doesn't work twirling the plane that you're in. It either works perfect, it either works too well, and that you'll be like spinning like, or you won't spin at all.
Yeah, I don't know if it's rigged or anything. I think there's a technique that you can do.
Yeah.
Another ride, I think my least... Well, I mean, there's other rides like Boo Blasters where it's so old that sometimes your guns just won't work.
Yeah.
But, and I miss the Scooby-Doo theme like crazy. But, like, I think my least favorite ride in the entire park has to be Soaring Timbers.
Oh.
Because I think it's the way it's engineered, because, like, the seats are not built for everyone. They're kind of built for a certain size. So I'm crunched in there, and it takes so long for the technicians to like sit everyone and make sure they're locked in. So I'm sitting there uncomfortable. The ride is not that long, and I don't really get much of a thrill out of it. So yeah, that ride just has never appealed to me. I find it very uncomfortable. But yeah, I'm trying to think of others. Sledgehammer's okay. Apparently, it's the only ride in the entirety of the world that functions the way it does, where it just lifts and descends and spins you. That one's okay, but it's almost always broken down.
Speaking of rides that are almost always broken down, not that I've been on it, but when I worked there, I did see it a few times. Windseeker.
Oh.
Yeah,
those cars would always get stuck on the way up to the top, to the point I think at one day where like they did have to like possibly get emergency services to get people down. I could be wrong, but I definitely know that has a tendency to happen on that ride.
Oh, that's a ride you don't want to get stuck on.
Windseeker? Which one's Windseeker?
I think that's the giant tower one that just kind of rotates.
Think of it like a Swing in the Century type ride, but it's like Cyclone, but instead of going like this, it goes vertical.
Yeah,
Speaking of other rides that I will never go on, as much as I have respect for Drop Zone, or is it Drop Tower or Drop Zone?
Drop Tower.
I always like looking at people going on it, but I will never go on it.
You know, I actually had a similar principle, Josh. It goes really... Drop Tower is one of those... It's that structure where if you see the skyline of Wonderland, you'll see Leviathan just kind of dwarfs... Is
that
the tallest
weird
thing.
Checkered flag colored beacon at the top.
Yeah, that's Drop Tower. I said I'm never going on. I go on it, and... the trick is not to look directly down, because if you look like off to the side, it's over very fast.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, I wouldn't worry. It's over. It's over quickly, and it's all safe, so yeah, it's not too much worry.
And there was another one I'd been meaning to get to. Did either of you ever go on Nightmares? You know, the spinny thing.
Oh, I love that ride. Yeah,
Nightmares. Yeah.
I imagine it's probably not for you because it's quite a heavy ride.
Probably not. I know there were two spinny rides like that. There was Nightmares, and then there was another one.
Pharaoh's Eye. I'm gonna talk about that.
Which one
soon.
was Nightmares again?
Right.
That's the one. That's the It's a UFO ride. It goes on it spins. It goes on a 90 degree. It's like how there's
Flavor-Rator and Spinner-Rator.
Yeah.
Similar ideas.
It's close to the medieval.
Oh, and Cliffhanger. That's another one I've never have any interest in going on.
Yeah.
What's Cliffhanger again?
That was the one that was Tomb Raider the ride, or was Time Warp Tomb Raider the ride, or were they both Tomb Raider the ride?
I think it was Tomb Raider the ride, and now it's Time Warp. So.
Yeah, Cliffhanger is the one where there's like it sort of goes and then it'll spin you, kind of like that. Like it almost like jerks you back and forth.
Okay, I'm not familiar with that one.
It's in the same area. It just past where the medieval theater is. Riptide is what it's called now.
Oh, Riptide. Okay, now I know what you're talking about.
That's the one where it's like...
See, I'm getting the names mixed up with what they used to be called.
This is how we know you're an OG.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the one where there's like the water fountain going on underneath it, and because of how long the cycles are, you get hit with water more often at the time than you do today.
Yeah, I noticed. I never get wet on that ride. I guess, yeah. So... I was wondering if we could maybe take a look back at rides that are now no longer at the park.
Right.
Yeah, there were so many that I mentioned some of them earlier that were around but no longer are, and I missed some of them.
Yeah, so I found a list here. The first one, we actually mentioned this one. This is the one that was very similar to Nightmares. It's called Pharaoh's Eye. It was from 1981 to 87. It was an amusement park that raised off the ground, tilted at 90 degrees while lifting, while spinning, and did many stomach-teasing loops, all the while you're standing up. So It sounds very, very much like Nightmares.
Yeah.
So I guess maybe Nightmares is more like modern, or maybe it was smaller or easier to maintain. I'm not sure. But yeah, it got removed to make room for Racing Rivers in 1988.
Oh yeah.
And then another one is Zumba Flume. This one actually kind of surprised. This one's actually kind of incredible. It came out when the park opened in 1981 and it closed in 1994. And it's kind of similar to Timberwolf Falls, where it's a classic log flume ride with 2 slides and a steep 40-foot drop. It ended in a giant splash and entertained over 14 million riders. And it's splashed for the last time in 94 to make room for Flight Deck. So, because that opened in 95. So that area used to be like a water flume ride. Which kind of makes sense because there's some like deep impressions in the ground where like they filled with cement. So I guess that's where the water used to be contained.
Yeah.
And this next one kind of brings me back because it's a Flintstones ride. It's called Bedrock Dock from 1981 to 1999. And Josh, feel free to let us know if you've been on any of these, because you've been around this park a lot longer than us. Kids from the 80s and 90s will remember this one. Bedrock Dock was a small Flintstones-themed boat ride that glided through water in Hanna-Barbera Land, now known as Planet Snoopy. And it was removed in 1999 to make room for Boo Blasters on Boo Hill. Yeah, that's kind of nice. It's like one of those. It's just a standard like carousel ride, but it had water in it, so that's pretty cool. And then there's.
Well, I know in that area there's Swan Lake still, I believe, which is I feel like that's kind of nice that part of that theming is still there, because Swan Lake you still are sitting in swans along a track, and I feel like it has a similar theming to Bedrock Dock, so maybe it made sense to get rid of that.
Yeah, Swan Lake's a lot more of a ride. It goes all the way through that little pond area, but yeah, this one's just like another one of those circular rides that you see everywhere in Planet Snoopy. Another one, this one lasted for a little bit longer. Bayern's Curve from 1981 to 2000.
I've been on this one a few times as a kid.
It's a roller coaster that moved a train around a circular tilted track and had a mountain backdrop. And it consists of 16 bobsled-themed cars that traveled at high speeds around the track. And riders would start in an upright position, but as the cars picked up speed, the cars would tilt to the side towards the center of the horn. And each bobsled represented a different country. So was it just like a circle track that moved on its own? Or like, I'm having a hard time picturing this one.
I think it's just it goes in a circle.
Okay.
I think so.
Not much to it.
Yeah, it's
well,
a fairly simple ride.
The reason why
fun.
I like Clockwork so much is I guess I have more memories of that because I remember being in the park when Bayern's Curve was around, but Clockworks replaced it in 2000, and so it basically was moved because Shockwave was coming the following year. But some of these rides are still in storage at other Cedar Fair parks. Like, for example, Bayern's Curve is in King's Dominion as of 2008, so it's been stored there ever since. Perhaps parts of it will repurpose or be repurposed into other rides in other Cedar Fair parks someday, who knows? But I didn't mind this one from what I can recall.
Yeah, it looks amusing, I must say. I like the aesthetic for sure. This other one, sorry.
It's the closest I guess Wonderland would get to a Matterhorn bobsleds-esque attraction because there are bobsleds, but you don't go racing down a hill.
All right. Speaking of racing, the next one on the list is Racing Rivers from 1988 to 2000. It was a water ride with one unique feature featuring 2 water slides where guests would sit on plastic sleds and slide down at a steep angle, like from 30 feet up. Guests could ride in their regular clothes, although there was no guarantee that they wouldn't get wet. And it closed in 2000 to make room for Cyclone, which opened in 2002.
Oh, okay.
So that was like fairly close to the Splash Park, but not still kind of outside the area. Interesting. You've mentioned this next one. Number 6 is The Great Whale of China from 1981 to 2003.
Yes, I liked this one a good bunch.
All right. Taking the high seas, it was situated in the Grand World Exposition of 1890 area of the park. The ride's boats sailed quickly around a circuit where they sloped up and down along the ocean waves, and is removed at the end of the 2003 season to make room for Time Warp, everyone's favorite.
Bad decision.
Yeah, this looks
but
like
it is still around today. It was stored behind Kingswood Music Theater, which I'll get to Kingswood in a little bit. They then moved it to Carowinds, and it's now known as Peanuts Pirates. So the ride itself is still alive. It's just known under a different name, but at least it lives on in an American park.
Yeah. Gosh darn it. Well, you can't have everything, I guess. This is another one you mentioned. Number 7 is a Jet Scream from 1990 to 2010. For those of you who haven't been on Jet Scream, this ride was a looping starship that gave you a gravity-defying sensation while rotating 360 degrees at 10 stories high. It had a fun 20-year run and was replaced by Windseeker, which opened in 2011. This one looks pretty intense, honestly. I'm looking at the clips here.
No, that's a downgrade right there.
Yeah.
But like I said earlier, Jet Scream is the final form of the Rage.
I was gonna say the Rage does not go 360 degrees, and I think the only one that matches it would be like Lumberjack or something, but it doesn't. It has to go through cycles. This one, God, it doesn't even look physically possible. The carriage looks so huge.
But it is. Like, I remember even walking by it and, like, seeing, there would be a lot of screens when it would complete its 360.
Yeah, this one looks pretty crazy. I almost regret not going on it at this time. Another one this one closed fairly recently, Skyrider, which was a standing roller coaster that was from 1985 to 2014.
Oh, wow.
So this one is where, like, instead of, like, it being harnessed, you actually just stood, and And during the 1.5-minute long ride, guests would go down many There are many drops, and there's also a 360-degree loop and then a twist to a.
I remember seeing people going on that too. That loop.
Mm-hmm. And it was a classic park coaster for 29 years, which is pretty good. Entertained 23 million guests, and it was reportedly sold to a park in Tuscany to make way for further park expansions and the development of the Yukon Striker, which opened in 2019.
Yes, Cavallino Matto now operates that ride under the name of Freestyle.
Did you ever go on this ride? Because I never got the chance.
Neither did I.
It was just weird because that would always be right beside Splashworks, and I don't know what took the place. Does Yukon Striker now stand where Skyrider did?
I believe so, yes.
Okay, so at least that land is being taken up by something. Because I was going to say, it would have been awkward to have just a bunch of dead space beside Splashworks like that.
Yeah, no, it's occupied. But, I saw one POV video of this ride, and one of the people on the ride was like, ow! During the ride, because apparently it was kind of rough.
Yeah.
But, it's definitely interesting. I've never seen a roller coaster where you stand the whole time and do a loop. That just sounds insane. And then, we mentioned this next one quite a bit, but Action Theater, which was from 1994 to 2018, so that's super recent. It had both 3D and 4D short films, combined features like sensor-equipped motion seats, wind and mist, and it was a great way to take a break from the sun. And they had they have a list of all the shows they had. They had Days of Thunder, James Bond, License to Thrill.
Was one of them.
Escape from Dino Land 3D, Stan Lee's 7th Portal. That would have been cool.
That's the dinosaur theme one, I would think.
Oh, yes!
SpongeBob SquarePants 4D, which we all have fond memories of.
Why do I feel like there was something with Elvira? Yes.
I'm not sure.
And the rest.
The Fantastic World of Hanna-Barbera. I think that's the one I mentioned earlier. Dinosaurs, Giants of...
That's probably it.
Yeah, Giants of Patagonia. 3D. Monsters
Patagonia. That was when I worked there.
Yep.
Dinosaurs Alive was like in the Planet Snoopy area. That was, I think, like a tie-in to that.
Oh yeah. Yeah,
I think so. They had to be related somehow.
Which also got shut down, unfortunately. I guess that's what.
Or fortunately, if you're me.
Oh yeah, yeah. I guess I never wanted to pay the extra fee just to like look at a bunch of like dinosaur animatronics.
Yeah.
Should I save my other issues with stuff like that for a little bit?
Yeah, for sure. We're almost done this list.
Okay.
Okay, well, carrying on. The last one on the list. This one actually kind of threw me for a loop. No pun intended. Because, I totally forgot about it. The Orbiter, which opened in 1981 to 2018.
Wow.
Yeah, I know.
What was the Orbiter? I was there. We were there in 2016 and 2017 and 2018. So, How do we miss
That was
this
a
one?
Ferris wheel type thing that would like spin. It would like move. It would move down and up, and it would spin.
Yeah, it was like a ring of cars that you sat in, and it would just go really fast, and the G-force would keep you in the seat. Yeah, it's weird. I didn't really love this ride. It was very close to Behemoth. It was like kind of in between this and there's a pathway that you went from Behemoth to like the 50s diner.
Oh, right.
That one. And like I think I mildly noticed that, yeah, it was missing when we went down that path. But I didn't really think much of it because I didn't go on the ride that much.
The Orbiter, I
Say
think...
the ride closed in 2018 is kind of not exactly true. It essentially really closed in 2006. And it sort of lay dormant really till February of 2019 when they finally finished dismantling and removing it. It had just sort of been nothing. It was nothing really for a while.
Yeah. That's odd because I remember riding it like around the time Evan and I used to go to Canada's Wonderland for the past few years.
I think
but,
I do think I saw the Orbiter and I'm like, oh, that ride looks interesting, and then you're like, yeah, no, it looks.
You know what? I didn't finish reading. Later on in 2006, they did reassemble it and reopen it. That's why.
I see. That's what I thought. Because I have been on this ride, but yeah, I know it's
not a Mandela effect.
The Orbiter effect.
Yeah.
So that was interesting. There's like some rides that we've been on and others that were a little before our time.
Now, I want to talk about what it was like to go on Yukon Striker, because we've mentioned it throughout this list, but
yeah, it's worth mentioning.
So
for sure.
on this particular day, I don't know where you were, Josh, but your lady Marnie had the pleasure of joining us.
I think I was working that day, or it was a weekend, and I had to work or something.
So our circle of friends had the day off, and Marnie hadn't been to Wonderland in a while, so she asked if she could tag along, and we invited her, so we were happy to do it. When we got on Yukon Strike, we all went on Yukon Striker. The ride starts with, the initial hill is like, it has the sharpest and steepest drop of any coaster, apparently in the park, or in the world too.
Well, the ride literally stops dead in its tracks just to have you look down and say, "Yep, you're going there in 2 seconds."
Or 3 Mississippis. I remember.
They always stop. They always go at 3.
Yeah.
Though.
So anyway, what happened was we climbed the hill, and the hill itself is a really steep climb because you're inverted like almost completely like on your back. And so we chat amongst ourselves, and then when we get to the top, Marnie's like, that was not like a 90-degree drop. That wasn't that steep. And I'm like, no, that is. And then we were about to like, what? Oh boy, here we go. Hey, what gives? And I'm like, is the ride... We knew that the ride wasn't broken because it was part of the ride, but it's still a jarring experience where, like, compared to... Can you imagine going on Leviathan, but then right before it's about to drop you, the coaster just stops dead, and it's like, what's...
Well, that's
1 hour later.
1 hour... Oh, no. No.
You stuck up there.
Sunburns ahoy. Yeah. Now this one's a really great ride. I'm not sure it has a little bit more going on than Behemoth, although I wouldn't say it has the exact same fear factor as Leviathan. Because after that initial drop, the ride it's kind of like a nice tour of the back end of the park.
Yeah,
like
it also inverts you too.
Yeah, you go through the pond where Vortex
or
is
a tunnel under the pond.
Well, yeah, but then you go all the way back to like the Alpine area. There's a few flips here and there. It's a pretty fun ride, honestly.
It is, yeah.
It's quite an experience.
Yeah.
It's like a little excursion through the back end of the park.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
Yeah. So, that's Yukon Striker. It's fun.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's the tallest dive coaster, the fastest, tallest, and longest dive coaster in the world upon opening. So, broke some records for sure.
Yeah.
And until some of the newer attractions come in the near future, the newest roller coaster at the park.
Yeah, for as of now.
Yeah, it is. It's sad that it didn't get it only had one summer season, and then COVID-19 kind of nixed the 2020 season. So
it's not like it's going anywhere.
Yeah, it's not going anywhere.
I think it will.
Yeah.
As an aside, there were 2 attractions, one of which did close a few years ago, and one that I was kind of interested to get your takes on.
Okay.
One of them was, I believe, Extreme Skyflyer.
All right.
Let me see
Which
here.
one's Skyfall?
Is that the one where you pay to get on it? But
It's basically, yeah,
it's like
it's an extra bungee jumping type of thing.
right. It's a slingshot. Is it that? Is it a slingshot where it you're strapped to a seat and it kertwangs you like up in the air?
And that one's the slingshot. Skyflyer is when you like go from one end of this arch and you go swinging to the other end.
Oh yeah, that does look cool.
That one looks a
That
little.
was extra.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, honestly, in my opinion, I don't think I'll ever go on those rides. Although, I'd rather do Skyflyer than Slingshot, for sure.
I very recently just saw Chronicle, and I feel like it would be like that, where, you know, like, oh yeah,
All
I can fly!
It's like lay off the trank.
Yeah.
No, thank you.
Then there was Launchpad, which was the near Whitewater Canyon. That was the side like trampoline thing.
Oh yeah, I remember those. Those are great.
Which, it was okay, but like there are actual trampoline places if people are interested. Like there's Sky Zone, Airborne as well, or is it Sky Riders? I've been to some trampoline places.
Yeah,
I think it's Sky Zone. I've been there.
What Sky Zone is where we went in 2018. It's right around. It's literally around the corner from Wonderland.
Yes, yeah. I knew it was nearby, and with Launchpad, they removed it to make way for flying canoes, which. What is flying? I forgot what flying canoes even is.
I think I've been on it once. It's literally just one of those rides that goes in a circle and your thing goes up and down. I think you can actually control it. Like you can control when you go up and down.
So it's Clockworks controller, like bonus edition.
Make your own Clockworks. Yes, that kind of thing.
Oh, okay. And then there's just what looks like ice cream in the middle, and then these explorers in a canoe perched on top.
Yeah, it's supposed to have like an explorer vibe because it's close to.
Oh yeah, because it's part of the recently opened Frontier Canada section as of 2019. That's right. They did finally add it. Although when Wonderland first opened, there was a decent section of the park that was about Canadian history and stuff, or at least was proposed.
Yeah.
Now, as an aside, Wonderland is not just a theme park and a water park and movie theater, a place to entertain your kids, a place to get souvenirs, whether they be cheap or overpriced. They also have had concerts there for many decades through the Kingswood Music Theater, which from the mid 80s from the time it opened in 81 rather up until maybe the mid-late 90s, there were some pretty notable acts that played there, because when I used to work there, I'd walk behind the theater and there would be placards inside the sort of staff office that showed for each season what artist played when. So there were some pretty cool acts that played there. And I definitely remember even in like 1999 and 2000, YTV would have their Psycho Blast summer tour play there. And there were some like notable teen kid pop acts that played. Like even I think Christina Aguilera was the headliner in the year 2000. And there was like, if you look on YouTube, probably the 1999 one, there's like a full video of, I think at least when the Muppets played there in 99, which is showing my age for Canadian music.
Yeah.
But if you weren't so interested in staying late at the park for music, you could always stay late to get scared.
Oh, I thought we would never get to talk about.
I was gonna say we should definitely get to this.
Once the summer ends, when the temperatures start to fall, Wonderland perhaps becomes the hauntiest of all.
Yeah.
Because Evan mentioned it earlier, there's nothing like, for people that like that kind of stuff, Halloween haunt.
Yes, Halloween haunts.
I gotta be honest. I worked there in the last bit of the fall season of 2010, and I thought the experience was okay. It wasn't the greatest experience in my life, but it's very, very repetitive, and I basically had to like wear a goblin costume and a mask, and I basically had to walk. If I was on my way like to the maze I was working in, I worked in the maze I worked in is no longer there. Either that or it was rebranded. See, at once the sun goes down on any particular October Eve, you go into the park and it is overrun by ghouls, goblins, Venetians, like you name it, anything that can be scary will try to scare you, and they don't pull punches. Like some of these actors are really, really freaky. And and I know this because interestingly enough, I worked there for one season. My mom actually made a few friends who worked there and she worked there for a couple seasons. And she said that, one of the scariest parts of working there was knowing that, people, when they're scared, like, sometimes people will like, attack, like, out of instinct, and...
oh, yeah, that's why you gotta... There's certain parameters that they have to follow.
Yeah, like,
they can't be too up in your face.
Yeah, like, you gotta maintain, like, a safe distance, like, from you and the guests is what they were called. But anyways, so, when I worked in... the Kingdom Carnage maze. Now, there are ghouls running around. There are ghouls and scary characters running around the whole park, and there are mazes that people will line up to walk through. And a maze is pretty much exactly like what it sounds like.
Yeah, it usually has a theme.
Yeah.
And monsters will just kind of stand like somewhere in the middle of the maze or like in the wall or something.
Now there are several mazes throughout the park. The one I worked in was called Kingdom Carnage, and it was basically like a medieval maze. It's like a haunted castle type of maze, and I played, and I was a goblin. And the first night I worked there, I completely destroyed my voice by screeching the whole time. Couldn't do that again.
Not unlike doing this show.
Yeah. No, like, I came back to school, I was in high school at the time. I came back to school on Monday, my voice box was destroyed, and I couldn't talk for like 3 days. Yeah.
We should share the moment we shared with the one time we went together.
Yeah, no, in 2017, we not only did we go to Halloween Haunt, we went on some coasters at nighttime, and that in and of itself was a bit of
going on Leviathan at nighttime as well as Behemoth is so nice. I wish you could just do that, but you can't, because most of the time it closes at 6 or 7.
Or in the summer it closes at 8, and then the sun isn't even down by then.
No, it's not down by then.
Yeah.
But,
what if I told you that Wonderland realized why not give guests the opportunity to celebrate the holidays at the park? Because in the last couple of years, they finally started doing something called WinterFest.
How'd that go? Because apparently 2019 was its first official year that they did it.
Well, essentially, not all the attractions are open. Not all, only a selection of rides are open. But the idea is they have, festive-related things, which I should mention. The kids' shows, like the Snoopy-themed ones, they do have, Halloween or at least fall and Christmas-related versions that do play later in the season. But they have a lot of food on display as well. Like, they have a bunch of different unique holiday dishes and stuff like that. As I'm looking here, it looks like they do have the, I don't know if they freeze Wonder Fountain or in that area to skate on, but it looks like you can do ice skating as well.
Nice. That's, we'll have to check that out someday. But
it's still fairly new, but I at least respect the fact that they are finally they're trying to have the park somewhat open in November and December while it's not freezing cold. So it's at least giving the operating, they're getting a little bit more out of their operating costs, because Wonderland usually has a timeline. It usually opens sometime in April, or at least in April is when the school music fest things happen. May is usually when the weekends, it opens on weekends for people, but it's only really around the long weekend for Victoria Day is when most people associate that as the real summer season. But what I found in my time working there, it's not until after June 21st, or at least until the end of high school exams, when it gets really busy, because then all the teenagers and all the kids are out of school for real.
Yeah.
And they're going to come by. That was mainly why I left in June of 2014. My last day was right before it started to get really busy, because I knew I didn't necessarily want to be in the elements for another year. But there was something else here. Oh, yeah.
But going back to I did have one story from Halloween Haunt where my mom warned me about how scary it can be there, because not only do they have scary characters running around, the music they play is actually really eerie. It's not cheesy, it's actually really dark and really creepy.
Are you gonna talk about your time at Cornstalkers?
Oh god. So basically,
I thought you said Thornstock for a second.
No, we go to Cornstalkers is in the most western region of the park, And
close to Whitewater Rapids.
Basically, it's literally what it sounds. It's a corn patch where creepy farmer
characters can't take the corn with you.
Where like zombie farmers, scare the crap out of you. So Lyle and our old friend, basically went there, and like I was a little unsettled by that, not gonna lie. And then one guy actually tried to get under. One monster actually went too far and is like, what do you say again?
He's like, why aren't you screaming, or why aren't you talking back?
And then you just said, just kind of broke the illusion.
Yeah, I was just like, don't mind him. He's antisocial.
Yeah.
And I just kept walking.
Yeah. No, I would say something edgy, like, why aren't you screaming? His mother just died. Relax.
Oh, I don't want to make the guy feel bad.
Yeah.
I remember the one that got me the most was the science fiction house or whatever.
Oh god,
with the ooky, like 1950s Nuketown aesthetic and like aliens that would just. There's one you walk in.
I bet it came with its own fridge that you could step into to hide from them.
That was the only option I had. That was the only option I had. But speaking of the kitchen, the only part that really scared the hell out of me was when we were walking in the kitchen. There's like this woman sitting there, and there's this giant like alien mutant that comes out of the door and just walks so slow that I don't even really register it until it's too late. It's like, whoa, that freaked me out.
The strobe, did that have strobe lights where?
Some of them do have strobe lights.
Yeah.
I must warn you, some of them are a little bit high on the light effects.
Yeah.
But not too bad. It's not, but I can't speak for anyone else who may have like symptoms like epilepsy. But yeah, some of the mazes aren't all that scary. I remember there was this one. It was like some sort of like slaughterhouse theme, and all I saw was just red. I just walked. I couldn't see any of the like visual gags or the effects, and I just left. And there was like a guy in a pig mask. I'm like, oh hi, Pigsy from Manhunt. Nice to see you again. How's the arms?
There's a reference.
Yeah, but anyways, like at the end of that, I was just like, wow, that was lame. But yeah, Halloween Haunt's pretty great.
All these scary things may or may not exist, but let me tell you about the scariest thing at this park.
Oh, what's that?
The geese.
Ooh, yeah. The geese.
Oh, yeah.
The Canadian
it's not just
geese.
A matter of if you happen to be, unfortunately, behind them as they're trying to cross the street near the park, because that does happen. But also, in the park, one of the not-so-great parts of having to work in certain places is to clean up the goose poop, especially at Dinosaurs Alive near the very end. There'd be a lot of that.
Yeah. So that's why you don't like that place.
How fitting that...
Well, not to mention, you can't get too close to them, obviously, because you don't want to get attacked by them either.
Oh, yeah.
No.
No, like, if you live in Canada, you know that Canadian geese are not to be trifled with.
I'm saying at Wonderland in particular, there is something there where those geese are they're like
extra mean.
Level.
Yeah.
On an aside, in terms of one of the things I really did take away from working at Wonderland was I gained a massive appreciation for everybody that works in the character department, whether it be the handlers or the people actually in the costumes, because that's sort of something you gain from working at a theme park. You see a lot of what goes on behind the curtain. Everyone is just a regular person trying to do the best job they can, but also like it's not easy being in a costume in the elements.
It's really not.
You still try and be in character, but working, it's sort of like any customer-facing job is not easy, but my hat went off to them every day because they were some of the nicest people. Even the people I work with in the entertainment department, they're some of the nicest people that I work with. In fact, someone that Evan and I both went to high school with was, I think, a supervisor for most of the time I worked there. So it was cool to see him outside of a school role, and when you get along well with your supervisors and you that was one of the nice things where at least, it felt like I was mostly on even footing with everyone. Yeah. It's just Wonderland as a whole. Once I started working there, I kind of stopped going there for as cynical and depressing as that may sound.
No, not at all. I think that happens with a lot of jobs. Like, let's say you like going to McDonald's, but I wouldn't want to work there because then I would just not want to go to McDonald's as much.
I have to be honest. When I worked at Adidas for a year, and
you did not get a shoe discount.
Is what?
You didn't get a shoe discount.
Oh no, I did. But yeah, so after I stopped working at Adidas, I just lost interest in buying their brand. I don't think I ever went back into like one of their stores. And
I can relate to that because I worked at a popsicle factory, and afterwards I never wanted to look at a freezy again.
Oh god.
Yeah. Which also topical, because I'm sure some of you might be listening to this with a freezy in tow, or several.
Sure, why not?
In case it's hot out. The other thing about Wonderland is there are so many separate departments that the only time you really see people from like ride operations or merchandise or other departments would be in the staff cafeteria, which was always kind of cool getting lunch from there because it is a lot of the same park food, but it is a little bit cheaper to get on the days I didn't bring lunch. And it was, nice to sit with coworkers and just sit by myself when I had some time and watch whatever was on TV, which was usually Degrassi: The Next Generation, because that's what they played in that office. Sometimes though, it was just kind of like chilling on your phone in the staff office at whatever theater it was, and even with some of the stage shows they had there, it was cool watching something like Cirque Ambiente, which was kind of like their version of Cirque du Soleil. The British Invasion one, which was sort of like a celebrating the history of British music, which. Yeah, that's given Canada's history. That's totally a great idea in the 2010s to still do that. But I always would try and come up with more modern, relevant choices for what's actually significant. And I remember the second year, I thought I want to actually audition as a musician this year. I'm going to try and learn the entire show on drums and practice it one day. It's like a 20-minute thing, and I think I practiced it okay. But obviously, I didn't end up getting it. But it's still nice that the park is still standing and. For most of this past year, up until recently, it's been a vaccination site for COVID-19. So someone listening to this may have actually gotten their first or second dose at this very place. I believe in the parking lot is where they've been doing it.
Oh, yeah.
That's pretty cool. That is pretty cool. Yeah. So anything else, any closing remarks we'd like to throw in about Canada's Wonderland?
Yes.
The funnel cakes are very good.
I wish the Dairy Queen ice cream dispensary machines would fucking work.
Dairy Queen. It was nice when you could get Dairy Queen in the park. That was a nice treat.
That was a good day.
Yeah, no.
If you wanted to splurge less, just go to the Wendy's down the street.
Yeah, no, that's what Lyle and I do. The only food we will pay for is Dairy Queen ice cream or funnel cakes there. So if we ever want to get lunch, we'll just go across the street to either the St. Louis Wings or the
Subway.
By the way, there's a really cool action.
The ticket prizes, the water gun games or ring toss, things like that. Are those still there?
Yeah,
they are.
I feel so bad for the people who have to work in those because they're very rarely occupied.
Yeah, no, they're dead most of the time.
So.
I mean,
I do remember. I think I may have gotten a Kermit the Frog or something from there. I may have gotten a few other things from there.
I remember when Pokemon Go was all the rage. There was all these stuffed Pokemon.
5 years ago was such a short time ago.
It really was, wasn't it? And everyone always had a massive Charizard or a Pikachu or a Squirtle, and occasionally
you got a rock.
I got a Bulbasaur.
Wonderland will be reopening very soon on July 5th. For those of you that got a season pass last year, they did honor those for 2021. They will be reopening on July the 5th for any season pass holders. And for all guests on July the 7th, and they have tickets and reservations available now on their website, canadaswonderland.com/welcoming you back. They outline all of the protocols and requirements before you come to the park. So if you are interested and you and your family are fully vaccinated, please take a look at that to make sure you have everything in tow before you head down there, because they are very thorough in what's being required of people.
Okay.
I mean, naturally, yeah.
Yeah, and I believe there will also be capacity restrictions as well, so keep that in mind.
Of course. Yeah. What do you think, Evan? Would you want to go this year?
Possibly. I might just go if there's going to be restrictions and it's not going to be as crazy crowded, maybe. That'd be nice.
I mean, I'm going to wait until I'm fully vaccinated. I wouldn't mind going once this year.
Yeah.
And just to kind of refresh.
Are they
going
to make you wear masks on the rides? Because I don't know how practical it's going to be. No, because the mask will just, if you go on Leviathan, the wind draft on that ride is so sharp, your mask is just going to fly off.
I don't know about that.
Yeah.
So this is new to me. So for anyone that does want to get a season pass for this year, if that's your bag, they have 3 tiers, which the tier system might have only been recently. $80 will get you a regular season pass, which gets you season-long access to Wonderland Splashworks, exclusive early ride times with some asterisks saying Oh no! So normally it would get you early entry to places, but because of capacity limitations, it's not available. Season pass appreciation events and discounts on food and merchandise. Then there's a gold pass for 100, which also covers admission to Halloween Haunt and WinterFest. And if you really want to go above and beyond, $225 will get you a platinum pass, which will also throw in free season-long parking and admission to all Cedar Fair parks, which includes all of their American parks as well.
Oh, cool.
That's if you feel like crossing the border, which they only just opened up. So I would advise against it right now.
That is a bargain, though, undoubtedly.
I suppose, although I would hope daily tickets are under like $50, because I remember when season passes were only one option or one tier, and they were $60 for the summer. But you do get access through Labor Day of 2022. So actually, in essence, you get a year and a half or so for that, which isn't bad if you're even going for the base price.
For sure.
And I believe the two new things that will be opening this year, Beagle Brigade Airfield, which is, I believe, in Planet Snoopy, and Mountain Bay Cliffs, which is cliff jumping.
Nice.
Huh. Well,
cliff jumping, Wonderland. Wow.
It reminds me of the Wonder Mountain Falls divers.
Yeah, I was gonna say, yeah, they used to have shows out by the fountain, like Snoopy
Those
Symphonies.
were really fun, too.
Yeah, it was nice when you caught them, for sure. I remember one time.
I always wondered though, what was the temperature in like the little pond area where they dove into? Because that would have to be pretty cold even on a hot day.
Yeah, hard to say. I assume they're pretty used to like water temperatures. I know I saw this one show with Evan. It was like it was by the castle, like in the medieval fair.
Yeah,
area.
there's a central there's a central pond in there where they have jumpers that jump off the tower.
They have jumpers there too. There was also a guy who had I don't know what these things are called, but they're like the water jet packs that come through that funnel water and they spray them up in the air.
Oh, those are cool.
Yeah, I was like, oh wow.
I gotta try one of those on a lake sometime.
They're expensive, but maybe you could rent one for an hour. We'll see. Yeah. So yeah, that was a nice revisit of a place that none of us have been in quite some time.
Oh yeah.
Overall, Canada's Wonderland has given us a lot of fond memories, and it continues today to be like one of the most impressive parks in North America.
Nice.
Maybe even the world.
Yeah.
So.
And hopefully it will be able to rebound in the next year or several, and much like its slogan, it's pretty amazing in here.
Yeah, no, it's wonderful. Gotta have that plug in there. Yeah. Anyways,
so thanks everyone very much for listening or watching this episode wherever you happen to find your podcasts. And I don't know if theme parks will be something we come back to anytime soon, but we appreciate you taking the time to listen to this regardless. And again, should you choose to go to the park, make sure you keep everything with the protocols and restrictions in mind. And if you haven't, please make sure to get your first or second dose whenever possible.
Cool. All right. Thank you for listening today, and have yourself a great one. Peace out.
Yeah, take care, everyone.